Hey, what's up guys? Jake Stephanus from Spark BMX Training. Thought I'd go live finally and answer these questions. I asked probably like 8 weeks ago on Facebook about your sprint training questions. And I got so many questions and I started writing down ideas that I ended up writing an ebook to sell. So anyways, we're gonna kind of go into that. We're gonna go into like a lot of the different subjects that I covered in the ebook. So those comments were very helpful to kind of get these ideas going. So I'm going to answer all the questions that I got on that page, and there was some redundant ones that other people asked, so I'm just going to kind of go through those and just answer those as they come. So before we get started though, I still have that Sprint Timer app that is selling and getting good feedback so far. I can't wait for people to actually start using that at the track and getting some times like gate start to 30 foot and start seeing improvement, start like practicing, working on their technique, and then seeing what is actually faster rather than just guessing. I'm also looking forward to this weather warming up because it's been like terrible here near Chicago. I haven't been able to get out and test and do any other articles for the app. So I can't wait to do some more things like that and kind of show you how I use it and how I would use it with my riders. The other thing is the Bmx Freak Manual that goes along with that app. So right now until tomorrow night, if you purchase the app, screenshot it, email it to Jake at sparkbmxtraining.com, and I will send you this ebook. It goes all into all the sprint training and all the different things with it. It's 41 pages. You also get programs, sprint programs. You have 4 levels of it, so it'll progress you through. You actually have, I specify it for 2 different kinds of people, and you can read that in the book. So it's more specific to you and your physical qualities, right? So we have 4 levels of that, plus an off-season endurance program. That's all in the back of this book to kind of really get you started, and it should take you through a full year of sprint training. So with that being said, let's go over some of these questions. I wanted to bring up just a couple little points. So when I put this sprint app out on Facebook, I inevitably get some negative-ish comments, so I wanted to kind of address those. You know, some people feel that adding this tech to BMX is unnecessary and somehow sucking the fun out of it or whatever. So maybe for those people, it really is. And you know, I'm not going to say that my way is the right way. This is just another tool for you to use to help yourself progress in BMX. Just like a hammer is used to drive a nail in, a timer is used at specific times. Like, you don't have to time every single gate start. You don't have to time every single sprint. You can use that timer when you feel like, if you only use it once a month to see how you're progressing, that's awesome. If you know, whatever. So I use it, I use it differently for different people. So this is going to go into my next point, possibly a rant. Coaching, and I actually brought this up the last Facebook Live. Coaching is so dependent on the person and their, not only their physiology, their psychological profiles, right? So not all people respond to getting feedback the same way, or data. Like, some people are so geeked out on timing their sprints and in seeing that feedback, that data, that it keeps them training. And I'm not going to tell them that data is bad, or, you know, timing all of your sprints is bad, because it gets them motivated to actually go out and sprint. Where other people might get bummed if they see their times, you know, if one day like their time is their PR and then the next day their time is a 10th off or something. That might bum them out and they might not ever sprint again. So I need to know that as a coach, what kind of a person you are, and then I can suggest technology accordingly. So it depends on the person, it depends on the situation. You're not going to time every single sprint, you're not going to time every single gate start, but it is a useful tool. So these people that tell you there's only one way to do it, I wouldn't let them anywhere near my kids, honestly, to coach them, or me, right? The best coaches are the ones that are adaptable to each person and actually look at the people that they're working with and tailor their training programs to them in some capacity. You know, it's funny in BMX, and probably all sports really, we see these these coaches now that used to be really, really good, they used to be elite level or whatever, legends of the sport, and we automatically think that they are going to be great coaches, and they probably think they're automatically going to be great coaches because they rose to the top of the sport. Well, what worked for them might not work for a lot of people. Maybe no one, maybe it works for no one except for them. We don't know. So these people that have very, they did it, this is the way they did it, we're going to continue to do it this way because it worked for me. That is not someone I want coaching my kids. And inevitably they have success with a rider or two or something like that because of the sheer number of people that they get. And inevitably, eventually, you're going to find someone that responds to that particular brand of training. Now, a good coach, and I've seen these coaches out there that are really good that can adapt to a lot of different people. And so if it doesn't work for Johnny over here, right, it might work for Timmy. And Johnny might need a totally different program. So that's what we want to start looking for from coaches. And I had to learn that the hard way by starting to coach people in my gym. I have, at one point I had up to 45 people. I've shrunk down a little bit now, but I've had like 45 people in here, throughout the week. And I had to know how to train all of them individually. You can't train them all the same way. Some people are studs and they pick stuff up very, very quickly, and other people almost never pick stuff up, right? Or some people are they learn by me showing them, and other people I have to put some kind of physical constraint. So whether that is limiting their space, their range of motion or something like that, that is like a trick that I use to help people learn. Some people learn that way, some people don't. You have to learn that as a coach, and it took me probably a couple years to really realize that, and I've honed that over the years. So that is something I bring into BMX training. I have this experience working with all these people from little kids to older adults, and all these different, levels of athleticism, we'll put it that way. So let's go over some of these questions. I just wrote a couple, I jotted some down. So the first one is sprint distances, and then someone else, number of sprints per session. Like how long do you want to sprint, and how many sprints per session do you want to do? And this is actually, a lot of this stuff is covered. I think all of this is covered in the BMX Sprint Manual. So if you want to go into a little more detail, you can pick this sucker up and take a look at it. So sprint distances. So anytime that you increase the distance or the length, amount of time that you are sprinting or doing anything at 100%, either the quicker you're going to wear out or the longer rest period it's going to require. So that means, say I'm sprinting 50 feet, that's only going to take me 2.5 seconds or something like that, right? So 2.5 seconds of max energy, and then I can go and rest. And then my rest is going to be much shorter, and I'm going to be able to do a lot more of them, 2.5 second long sprints, than I can, say, a 200-foot sprint, which might take me 6 seconds, 6.5 seconds or something like that, right? It doesn't sound like much, but it is a lot. You will see your times degrade quicker if you're doing like very long sprints. You also need to increase that time. So either you are getting less sprints in per day, which is probably going to be the case, or you're going to be out there sprinting for like an hour and a half. And I don't know a whole lot of people that like to do that very consistently. So you have to kind of determine what physical quality you're going after. If it's top-end speed, then maybe the longer sprint is what you need. If you're just working on capacity, like that initial burst of power and building capacity, the ability to do that throughout a whole day of racing or a whole weekend of racing, then you might want to shorten that up and just practice that. That will allow you to get more efforts in with shorter rest breaks, and you'll be able to do you'll be able to do 10 to 15 of them without degrading, where the long sprint, you might only be able to get 5 or 6 or 7. Okay, here we're back. All right, so the next question, good routine for a 10 expert. I actually got one for an 8 expert as well. So basically any kid. So this one's fairly nuanced because kids aren't little adults. They don't respond the same way to training that adults do. Not only just like some kids might be super bummed out by sprinting in the first place, right? They want to go play with their friends and you're trying to make them sprint. So, you know, who knows if that's, it kind of depends on your kid's mentality at that age. So I would say guide them to do sprints if they're not really necessarily willing. I wouldn't, you know, force them to do sprints, right? Second thing is you have to treat them like kids. So kids are wired to learn. Their brains are very active, right? They're little learning machines, where us grown-ups are a little bit more, our molds have been hardened, the clay is hard, right? So, but little kids like to pick stuff up. They what we need to teach them is coordination more than strength training. So coordination is what's gonna really improve with little kids because they are learning machines, right? They are not set up hormonally to grow in strength. They're not going to get much stronger than they already are, the same way like a 16-year-old boy will get stronger, right? Because they're flooded with growth hormone. You know, those guys are going to pick up strength, but the little kids need the coordination. So we work on them with coordination, because then at that age when they're, say, 13, 14, 15, when they start to really hit puberty, hormones are flooding in, we can strength train them then, or we can train them with, say, harder sprints, resisted sprints, and then you'll see a real big boost in performance, where I don't think you're going to be able to get that same development out of a younger kid. You might slow them down, actually. If we start doing a lot of heavy resisted things that are very slow, they're not going to develop that really fast, explosive power, explosive speed. So that might be something you want to work at or think about with your sprints, is like not really having them do maybe any resistance, maybe some, but what you can't let them do is go to a harder, say like an uphill sprint, right? So you can't let them go to an uphill sprint and they sacrifice technique for trying to get up that hill faster. If you see that, you have to cut them, you have to put them on a flat ground or downhill to help them wire that pattern and maybe slowly progress them to a more resisted sprint, but it wouldn't be something I would really push very often with kids. So that's my thoughts on developing a good sprint routine for younger kids. This goes into stumpy gaits. So the next question is stumpy gaits. What do I think of them, or practice gaits in general? Well, someone asked stumpy gaits. So some people hate stumpy gaits, and I honestly don't know. I don't know if I necessarily hate the motion of kind of pulling back to get going forward, because if you do a gait right, you're going to pull back anyways. Like the bike is going to come off of you. You don't need to take much pressure off of a stumpy gait for it to fall, so you don't flip over the gate, right? But the problem is with little kids, they don't have that forward momentum to get that front tire to come back very much, so they end up rocking back to try to start that movement, and that is a movement pattern we don't really want to reinforce. So that is maybe stumpy gaits aren't good for younger kids, but they're probably okay for older riders. But practice gaits. So stumpy gaits and practice gaits to me are the same kind of thing. So what do we normally see with practice gaits and stumpy gaits? They're on flat ground, so that the people will come out of the gate and right away their front tire hits that ground and it just kills their second pedal. I think that reinforces bad technique more than anything. So I don't know if I would even do practice gaits on flat ground. Anytime that I've ever done them, I end up doing some kind of weird gait that doesn't feel like my normal gait on a hill. So if I'm not on some kind of a hill for my practice gait, I think I would just skip them totally. That's my feelings on them. So if you do have a practice gait, I think you need to build a platform for it, at least several feet, so you can have that smoother transition on your second, third pedal, because that's really what we're trying to develop with gait starts. All right, so fourth question, programming. How would you structure a week of sprints, weights, and racing? So this is an issue. This is something that is a problem with trainers. Like there's 7 days in a week, right? And we could just jam pack it full of different activities. But if you start thinking about things, considering what happens, then you run into these logistical problems, like and it depends on the people's schedule too. So whenever I get a new rider, I have to find out like what their work schedule is, what days they can actually go to the gym, what days they actually go to the track and stuff like that. And then I have to look back and build my program around that. I can't just say go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do sprints Tuesday, Thursday. We have to also consider the cost of going to a gym and like what you're even doing at the gym. So say you're going to CrossFit and you're doing like some kind of crazy WOD, that is going to smoke most people for a good portion of the week. So if I go and do some crazy WOD on Tuesday and then I go to gate practice on Wednesday, chances are I'm not going to be at 100% for that session at the track. So honestly, like strength training, I own a gym and everything, and some of you might think that I'm like the strength coach kind of guy or whatever, but I'm really not. Like I use the gym as a supplement for BMX training. It's meant to give us some kind of stimulation for power and speed, and work on some specific maybe weaknesses that we might have. That's what I kind of use the gym for, but I tend not to smoke people in the gym. I might do a little bit more this time of year because it's our off season in America. But I have to kind of weigh the consequences of pushing them hard in the gym. And then, so honestly, there isn't a great answer for how to structure your week, other than if you do a hard workout, the next day you might want to take a day off before you try to do sprints or go racing and things like that. When you need like that very high neural drive, it's probably not good to go and get a real hard workout in the day before, from what we found. For some people, that's the thing though, for some people, it doesn't matter. Some people can tolerate a lot of exercise, a lot of work, and then still go out and perform. Other people get smoked for a better part of a week from just like one workout. They don't even have to do that much, or one track session or whatever. The only way to know that for sure is, here's my plug, timing your sprints. Like, we don't know. I can't tell you unless we time it how you respond to your whatever you're doing, right? There's just no way to know. You can feel like you are going fast or feel like you're going slow, but I can tell you for sure you don't know. And actually, going by feelings, I found to be one of the worst markers for your actual performance. So time it. You have to figure it out somehow, and I think timing is the best way to do that. So my app, $25, and you can actually time that. So that's my plug for that. But I haven't found a better solution. You can go out and spend money for really nice timers, and if you've got the money, feel free to go for it. But my camera app, base timer, works really well for that, from what I've found. All right, so rollers or trainers or stationary bikes for winter training. Yes, yeah, I use those. I actually don't even just use them for winter training. We use them for summer training as well. It's a great way to provide a stimulus to change what you want to change, right? So we can use stationary bikes, exercise bikes for like cardio training. We can do like longer, slower, riding to build up some aerobic capacity in the off season. We can do different tempo rides. I like to use that. That's actually in the programs in here, some tempo rides and some, and then using it for some short bursts, some sprints to build up our power repeatability throughout a day. That's what I really like those for. But we can also use it for overspeed training, like working on our cadence. So we can also go out and go do downhill sprints. We can do those long 200-foot sprints. But those longer, faster downhill sprints and stuff have these inherent dangers, if you think about it, right? Anytime chain blows off while you're doing a downhill sprint, it's not going to be pretty. But you can get a pretty good stimulus on rollers. You can get a good stimulus on, say, like a spin bike or an exercise bike by reducing that resistance and really working on your cadence, pedaling faster than what you pedaled before. A good way to do that is actually using a speedometer, and you'll see changes in speed over time if you work on that. So I definitely use that. That's also in this book too, how to use that. Stationary bikes or rollers and stuff to improve your top speed rather than going out and doing long sprints. Improving reaction time. So this is an interesting one. I wrote an article on this. I kind of dug into this. I wanted to learn more about this myself. So improving reaction time it's more complicated than just going and practicing focusing. It needs to be, if you want to have consistent reaction time, you need to cement this, whatever you're doing in your brain where it's completely subconscious. You can't think about really anything if you expect to repeat it with a few thousandths of a second accuracy. It's just not, you're not going to do it. You might get lucky sometimes, but you're not going to nail it the majority of the times. So I just wrote this down because I always screw this up. But the hierarchy of competence. Hierarchy is a word I can't spell to save my life. But hierarchy of competence. So there's 4 levels of this, and I'm going to go through them real quick. Unconscious incompetence. So that means you're completely oblivious to the fact that you suck or you don't know how to do something well, right? We've all been there at some point with something. The second stage, conscious incompetence. So you realize you suck. That's good, right? That's like you're starting to figure out that you suck and you need to make some kind of changes. Third stage is conscious competence. So that means you are aware that you're doing it correctly. Maybe someone coached you, gave you the right cues, and you're aware that you're doing it correctly. And the fourth one is unconscious competence. So that means that you don't even need to think about it anymore. Your competence is completely subconscious. This is a level that we're striving to get to in BMX, whether it is gate starts, manuals, jumps, whatever. It needs to be something that you're not even focused on. And if you've ever had one of those laps where you feel like you're in the flow, it's completely subconscious. You're not thinking about what's going on. It's just happening. So that's our hierarchy of competence. So that leads me to you just can't work on reaction. You can't work on your reaction time while you're still working on technique. You can't have your parents, giving you 3 things to work on in the gate and then still expecting you to get a good gate all the time. It's not going to happen. If your kid is very inconsistent, it's probably because either maybe they suck at balancing. They have a hard time balancing in the gate. You don't need to work on throwing the shoulders forward and the hips forward at the same time if they can't balance on the gate yet. So it can be one of those things where you have to go back and have them practice balancing before they can move on to that next stage. Because maybe they don't even know they can't balance. They're struggling and you're telling them orders and stuff, right? So that is our 4 stages of learning, and you need to kind of progress through all those stages if you want to make anything automatic and consistent. All right, we're almost there. Wrists rolled forward and toes pointed. Someone asked if that is a desirable thing to do in the gate. I honestly don't know if it really matters all that much. I think that is just like fine-tuning. Some people like to do it. Sometimes it's just a matter of habit. Like you have your thing, so when the cadence starts at one particular moment, you roll your wrist forward, and then at another part, you lean back. So that is all, you're starting to build that subconscious thing that you do. That is just like, any other skill that people work on. So I don't necessarily think it matters, and if anyone tells you need to roll your wrist all the way forward or whatever, I don't think it really matters. Toes pointed and all that stuff. Once again, if you start thinking about where your toes are at, where your wrists are at in the gate and stuff like that, chances are you're going to blow your gate more times than you're going to get a good gate. And then our final one, variations between uphill and downhill sprints. So how do we know this? Well, first of all, I type my people. So in the book I talk about this. What kind of a rider are you? Are you more of a power rider? Like, do you find that you do better at tracks that you come out of the gate and it's a flat, a very flat, small flat hill, and you feel like you can outpower people? Or are you more of a wiry kind of person, a fast person that needs a little bit bigger of a hill but can spin really fast, really quickly? So those are my 2 different types of people. So I give them 2 different kinds of training stimuluses, especially early on. So I will start people, more of an uphill bias, possibly, or a resisted sprint if I find that they're very weak and I want to build a little bit of strength and power. And then I might go downhill or accelerated sprints if I find that they are already very strong but just can't, produce that power quickly. So that's how I classify that. Now the variations between them, how do I know when to switch? So that starts coming down to my timing again. I start looking at, are they improving from what I'm trying to, from the stimulus I'm trying to give them. Say they've done uphill sprints for 2 weeks and they haven't gotten any faster out of the gate or whatever yet. Maybe they haven't fully adapted to that stimulus yet. Or downhill sprints, right? They haven't picked up any high-speed cadence or whatever, right? So maybe so you have a couple different options. Either your preconceived notion about what they need to train is either wrong, or they haven't spent enough time working on that yet. It might be something that is difficult for them. A weak person is not going to magically get strong by doing 4 sessions of uphill sprints, most likely, and then someone that is slower isn't going to get super fast by doing downhill sprints 3 times, right? In fact, I've found that it's closer to, it takes a better part of 1 to 2 months sometimes for people to actually see some significant changes. So you have to stick that out. How do you know that again? You have to time it in some way. You can't just go by eye. So once you start seeing, either increase in miles per hour if you're doing sprints or whatever, that is like downhill sprints or on the rollers, whatever, then you're starting to get the stimulus is starting to work and you're starting to see the people pick up speed. And then, say you start seeing more power like in your, out of the gate and down the first straightaway or something from doing uphill sprints or whatever, then that they're starting to get that stimulus too. You can start riding that out until you see that numbers start to plateau, and then you can change that stimulus up. That's how I go about training. And once again, the only way that you can know that for sure is by timing them, unfortunately. It's really, really hard just to look at them or ask the riders input on what feels better, because I would bet about anything that almost all the time they are completely wrong. So that's it. That's my plug for like some of the stuff that you can do in with the BMX Sprint Manual, coupled with the BMX Sprint Timer. And yeah, I'm sorry, Android people, I don't have an app for you yet, but hopefully we will get that started, and I'll have one for everyone. So that's it. If you want, check out the book, buy the app. Buy the app before tomorrow night, I'll send you this out for free. If you don't have an iPhone, I'm sorry, you can buy the manual for $19.95 until tomorrow. It goes up $5 on Thursday morning. So pick it up. I've had some really good reviews, some good feedback from it. So I hope you like it. It's a lot of the stuff that I put together. Any questions? Most people don't leave questions in here. I got some thumbs up and stuff. All right, cool guys. That's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Leave me any questions, comments, or whatever. See ya.